Hello, everyone. Technically, when I'm recording this, no, actually, now it's May 1st. I was about to say it's still technically um poetry month, but no, I'm recording this at like 2 in the morning. So it's May 1st now. Or is it? Yeah, it is May 1st now. So, but even though it's not poetry month, as always, obligatory self promotion. What if I ruled the world? Poems inspired by music. You can read this any time of year, all year long. Me on the back. And I'm gonna give another update about my book that I was supposed to be writing this year. I don't know what I'm doing, y'all. I keep getting new ideas, and I keep being like, "Oh, maybe I'll write some stuff that I've already written and rewrite it." And then I get new ideas. I just need to figure it out. That's what I need to do. I need to figure it out. I need to get started. I need to plan it, get it ready, because I would like to write another book, and I would like to write a fiction book because obviously I've written a poetry book. That's the next step for me. And I have so many ideas, but the problem is I have so many ideas that I cannot narrow down. So I got to get that together. And part of me, like some of the ideas, I feel like are pretty big, and so I'm trying to decide what do I want to do. But I guess it doesn't have to be big. I can like narrow it down because I'm the one writing it. But anyway, so that's an update. Um, I'm kind of all over the place. So it is what it is. I hope you all had a great April, and I'm hoping your May will be great. It's gonna be May. I just had to do that, even though I don't like Justin Timberlake, but I always love that meme. But anyway, we're here to talk about Sinners, and I'm done rambling. So let's get into it. So Sinners just came out April 18th. So like 3 weeks ago as of this video. 2-ish. It's kind of weird because like April ended in the middle of like the week. So, but it's about 2-3 weeks out. It's a horror adventure movie, and the synopsis is, if you haven't seen it, which I have seen on Twitter, people have not seen it, and I'm so glad I saw it when I did. I wanted to see it with my one of my two of my best friends, but one of them was going to be out of town when it like originally, like when it first came out, like the opening weekend. So we had to watch it the next weekend. I only got tiny bit of spoilers. If you haven't watched it already and you're like on Twitter, it's spoiled for you. It is, unless you just block out like certain words, like you mute them or whatever. You need to find a bootleg site because at this point, everybody spoiled everything. There's so many analyses and so many critiques and positive things and thoughts about the movie that you're going to be spoiled. So luckily I got too many spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it in this video just in case you have really not seen it, but I feel like it's been buzzing, it's been everywhere, so hopefully you've seen it. But I will tell you when I'm going to spoil something. So the synopsis is, it's set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta. Michael B. Jordan is playing twin brothers who return to their hometown to start again, only to be confronted by a supernatural evil. It was directed by Ryan Coogler, and it was also written by him, which I think is fun because there's some fun parts into it that I think are like really funny, and I'm like, a black man wrote this, and it's just so funny to think about, like, especially with the vampire remake. I hope I'm saying his name right, and like some of the things that he says, and like it's just so funny to think about, like a black man writing about that. But anyway, but there are black characters who say funny things as well. And speaking of the cast, let's get into it. So Michael B. Jordan plays Elias Smokemore and Elias Stackmore. They're criminal twin brothers. They went to Chicago. They got a bunch of money, and then they come back home to Mississippi. Haley Steinfeld. Okay. I feel like I've never said her name out loud, as you can see. But she plays Mary, C. Stack's ex-girlfriend. Miles Canton, which I hope I said his last name right. But this is his first role ever. Wow, wow, wow. We'll talk about that later. How I feel about his role, his acting. As Sammy Preacher Boy Moore, Smoke is Stack's cousin. Okay, so Buddy Guy. He's a famous blues singer legend, and he was in the mid credit scene. So stay to watch it. I'm not gonna spoil who he was, just in case you haven't seen the movie. But I mean, I'm spoiling it later, but I'm gonna let you know. But right now, if you don't want to be spoiled, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Jack O'Connell as Remick in Irish Vampire. He's like the leader of the vampires. Wunmi Mosaku as Annie. She's Smoke's wife. Jamie Lawson as Pearline. She's a singer, and she's also the love interest of Sammy. And Omar Miller as Cornbread, a field worker and bouncer. So that's what he does at the club. Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim, a pianist. I think he also plays the guitar and the harmonica, if I remember that right from the movie. Lee Jun Lee as Grace Choi, Bo's wife and a shopkeeper, and then Yao. I'm butchering these names as Bo Choi, Grace's husband and a shopkeeper. And then Lola Kirk as Joan, a local KKK member. Peter I'm gonna call him Peter D. as Bert, another local KKK member. And then David uh, Maldonado as Hogwood, a local KKK member, a local KKK leader. So he's the leader. Saul Williams as Jebediah Moore, Sammy's father, and then Helena Hugh as Lisa Choi, Bo and Grace's daughter. That's a long cast. So I'm gonna get into my pros, my cons, and my overall opinion. And I also want to analyze some of the main themes I thought were in the movie. And I just want to preface this by saying these are my opinions. That's all I'm gonna say. And that we can have a discussion, but don't go crazy. All right. So let me get into my pros. So number one, the story. I love the story even before the vampires came in because it was so rich and full. I hope that that's not a spoiler because I feel like that was kind of in the trailer. Anyway, the twins' backstory and how they juxtapose the people with their clothes and their new knowledge, like they were suited up with the bling and the grills and stuff. And I love that. Um, okay, so there's this white creator that I love. I'm not gonna say her name, but she's a YouTuber, and she said that there was no horror before the vampires, but being black in the Jim Crow South was the horror. Okay, that was also part of the horror too, and so I feel like that's why it was so intense when Remick did come because of that tension. And I will say another white creator got it. So hope isn't always lost on the white people. LOL. That they do understand that yes, living as a black person in the Jim Crow South is scary in and of itself. So hope isn't lost. But I love the backstory and the story throughout with the vampires as well. In the acting, whew, everyone did a phenomenal job, especially Miles Canton as his debut role. I can't talk. He did great. He and I've been looking at tweets and stuff. I'm obsessed with this movie right now. I feel like a lot of people are. But he took two months to learn the guitar. to play this role. That's crazy. Give me a year. Give me a little more time. But he was dedicated. So yeah, he did amazing. And he was able to hold his own against veteran actors like Michael B. Jordan. Shout out to him, especially playing two distinct characters and giving them life. I'm gonna be honest. Before this role, I thought he was pretty vanilla, like very one note for his acting. But he really impressed me with this role. Like he did amazing, and I feel like everyone, the whole cast, embodied all of their characters very well. Like I was really engrossed in the story. Like I believed that these people were these people. You know what I mean? It's not like you know how you watch The Rock and he's playing The Rock. That's not what happened. It was like these people just melted into their characters and they were the characters. Yeah, everybody did a great job. Haley Stanfield, uh, Jack O'Connell as the vampire. He was very into it. Um, yeah, everybody was into it. Woon Me, as Annie, as Smoke's wife. Yeah, Jamie Lawson as Pearline. Everybody did a great job. Delroy Lindo was great. Omar Miller, everyone did an amazing job. Now I know some people. I'm not gonna spoil it 100%, but I know some people were mad at Grace as a character. I do feel like I was also mad, but I also feel like what she did was realistic. If you know, you know. But it is what it is. Another thing I loved was the setting and time period. I love this horror movie is set in this time period, but it was like more complex than just racism being the evil that they're facing. Even though I feel like it's definitely like still a part of the evil of the vampires. Um, of course, it is a major element, but it's incorporated so well into the story. Of course, the time period in and of itself is going to be tense. So they were like layers to it. So I felt like if you were looking for like more gore versus like I don't know how to describe it, like existential or like racial horror, then yeah. I mean, I feel like this movie was gory. I'm not like a person who's like into torture porn or like really gory movies, so this was fine for me. There was enough gore for me. I was like, oh, a lot going on. So, but I know some people want more stuff, but this was what it was to me. I didn't think it needed too much. I also love the fashions from this time period. Everybody looks so good. I love the fashions. It was a very good world and time period for this movie to be set in. And last but certainly not least, the music. The music is incredible. I gotta listen to the soundtrack. All the songs were bops, and Miles Canton and Jamie Lawson really sang the house down. They did great. They did a great job, and I love how the music was also like an element of the story. And it's not just because they're in a juke joint, but also it's an important to why the vampires came there in the first place. Why Mick wanted to come there. Uh, I'm not gonna spoil it yet, but we'll talk about that. I keep saying I'm not gonna spoil it, and then I'm like, we'll talk about it later. But we are gonna talk about it later. So let's get into my cons. I have two. I wish we had more lore about the vampires. I wish we got like more backstory. But I do understand what they represented in like the bigger picture, which I will analyze more. Like I said, because I keep saying I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm going to spoil it later. I do like the look of them, and what we do learn about them. But I would have loved more backstories before we read Remick. Um, but I guess I would like the backstory with Remick actually because he was the main one. So that would be interesting to know, like, what happened to him, where did he come from, how did he become a vampire, like, what, and why was he the leader? Like, what? I guess he was technically the only vampire in the area, so he would naturally become the leader. I feel like that does make sense. Oh, and then they had this might be a spoiler, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. They had some Native American vampire hunters. Uh, I wish we got more information on them because I would have loved to know like how do they hunt them? What is the process? Like what do they do? But we don't get any of that. We get like a little teeny cameo from them. But I would like to know more. I would say I don't understand why we don't get more of their backstory. Like I understood with the vampires because I kind of like understood in a bigger picture, but I feel like we could have got a little bit more backstory on them. It was like a short appearance, and it left a lot to be desired. So I really would have liked to know more about them because I feel like that could be a really like I don't know if fun is the right word, but really interesting element to it. Especially because they knew. Oh, this might be a spoiler. Spoiler alert. They knew like the rules of vampires, like don't be out at night. If that's the one I can remember off the top of my head. They like, oh, it's getting dark. Let's get up out of here. Like they knew, like they knew what was going on. So I would like to know more about them. Okay, so I'm gonna give my overall opinion. I love this movie. I did. I love that it wasn't just torture porn 100%. Like I mentioned earlier, that's not my thing. Which brings me to the creator that I do love, who wanted more horror, but she really meant gore. And it rubs me the wrong way that a white woman wants more gore from a movie where the cast is mostly black. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. Because I was like, why do you want, you know, black people to be suffering, basically? So that I'm sure that's probably not what she meant, but it did. I was like, But yeah, um, for me, I felt like it was perfectly. I can't read and I can't talk. Perfectly balanced for the most part. Besides wanting to know more about the vampires and the Native American hunters. I love the acting, the music, the setting, and the time period. It was so exciting and profound. I would highly recommend going to see it. I know it's coming out of IMAX. Well, by the time you watch this, it'll be out of IMAX. I don't know if it'll still be in like regular theaters, but highly recommend it. If you have not seen it, you probably know the entire movie because it's been spoiled all over Twitter. So unless you muted the words, you know what's going on. So you know, if you still haven't seen it, I think you should go see it if you can, if it's still in theaters. Because I know movies don't stay in theaters that long anymore. Like, it's like you got to get in like the first 2 weekends. Like, I don't know. This is going to be a slight rant. Are movies in theaters shorter than they were before? I feel like they are. I feel like it used to be like at least a month. It doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like 2 weeks, maybe three. It's like really quick. I would give it a 9 out of 10. And I would definitely get it on DVD. It has so much backstory that uh, Ryan Coogler researched and took from his own life that I would like to know more about it. And I've seen like a couple interview clips of him talking about why he chose twins. Um, and then I saw there was like a documentary about the Chinese people who lived in the South during Jim Crow, and that the person on that documentary actually helped with the movie. So it's like a lot of layers I would love to know more about. And this movie gave me a new story idea, so it really fired up my creativity. So I don't like to share my story ideas, but maybe if I actually write it out, I'll talk about it. But I ain't trying to have nobody steal my idea. Not yet. So I'm going to give a major spoiler alert because I'm going to analyze the major themes that I thought were in the movie. So I'm going to talk about, I guess it's technically six, but I'm combining two. You'll see what I mean. So, spoiler alert. So, the first major theme that I thought was in the movie was racism and colorism, which is, you know, it makes sense. You're in the Jim Crow South in 1932. So, hey, it's going to be a big part of it. Um, which I said that in my first sentence. Of course, during this time period in the movie, it's the Jim Crow era, so there's racial tension. So, there was the backdrop of that with the KKK. And then they wanted to attack the twins and the others the next day at the juke joint. So the brothers buy it from somebody, and I think he's the KKK leader, Hogwood. That was his name. And they see a stain on the floor, and they're like, it looks a little bloody. So it's a little shady. So yeah, but um, there's that. Which when Mick is outside of the juke joint, like, because you got to invite vampires in, he tells them that, hey, the KKK is coming back here to take y'all out, basically. Like, he knows that because he turned two of the KKK members into vampires. Um, but the people just wanted to be free and have fun, and there was always a present threat. And also, so that's like the big threat. And also the subject of colorism and the one drop rule with Mary, and Mary being able to pass as white and it being a point of conflict several times. Especially like people have pointed out, like Ramik is funny and he's trying to get in. Vampire, you have to invite them in, but they're like, they're all black people in this club, and they're like not trying to let him in. And he's like performing this. I guess it's like Irish folk song. I can't remember, but it's not like the music they want to be hearing. And then he's like, they're like, "Oh, well, you're white. We don't want you in," basically. And then he's like, "What about her?" He's pointing at Mary, and they're like, "Oh, she's family." Da, da, da. So it's a point of contention a few times. Which I feel like she is pretty white. She's pretty much white because she's an octoroon technically. LOL. Because she said her mom's dad was half black. So I'm assuming her mom is white. So I'm assuming if he was half black and married a white woman, that's white. That's two thirds of the white to make her. So she really have the little one drop. LOL. Um yeah, and so then there was a fanfare online that rubs me the wrong way. Like she shouldn't have been the main focus of the movie because she is an octoroon in real life as well. Uh, but I do think it is still important to have a character to have when looking at colorism and passing and it being used to her advantage because she was married to a wealthy white man. And somebody pointed out how she had nicer clothes than everyone else, and like silk and these, you know, like these clothes that like kind of looked out of place versus the other. Well, she ain't really black versus the black people, but yeah. And then another theme that I saw was cultural appropriation and music, which is so that's the main reason the so here we go. I can't read what I wrote. So the main vampire being bring Irish. They're kind of close in region. I'm sure they would disagree with that, but anyway. So the main vampire being Irish and wanting Sammy's musical talent is a tale as old as time. A white person wants to take something from a black person and take it for themselves. Especially because the vampires basically assimilate to our mixed culture when they get turned because he's the leader, so everybody follows whatever he wants to do. And they have this whole musical like Irish jig number, and everybody's dancing, doing the Irish dances and stuff and singing. And so that shows like how in this vampire culture they assimilate, which and then Ramik is like the colorblind, and we can all be one type of racist that don't believe that they're actually racist. But the problem is he wants to make a utopia where everyone is the same instead of celebrating their differences. Those people who are like, I don't care if you're blue, black, or yellow. That saying. I don't think it's the exact saying, but they're gonna be racist as hell. Like that when you hear that phrase, you're like, oh, no way. And it kind of like makes it seem like, oh, why can't we all be one? So it's erasing the fact that you're all different in positive ways, and also erases how you're treated differently because of your differences. So it erases the negativity of you not being treated well. So that's why it's a problem. And he wants Preacher Boy's talent for his own gain, not to actually appreciate his talent, which we know has happened all the time. Elvis, um, I feel like Elvis is a big one. Anyone, white person, really. For all, country music with big one, with Beyonce, doing country album, and not, because she's black, it's like, oh, it's not country enough, but black people started country. And you see how, you know, and then also in the hip hop space, we have white people who invade it and disrespect it, and then they move on to something else. So they get the crowd, they get the clout, they get the money, they get the fame from being a rapper, and they move on to something else. Where mainly white people are, and they can also be accepted there. So yeah, that keeps happening over and over and over again. And then the final theme I want to talk about is bondage and freedom. Um, and it's like a theme throughout the movie. So the black people of the movie want to have freedom, just be themselves in peace, and of course they can't because it's Jim Crow South. And they want to go to the juke joint to be free and dance and have fun. And Mick wants to make being a vampire seem like it's the ultimate freedom, but really it's bondage, because you're bound to following this leader. I mean, you're not always following the leader. They talk about that in the movie. That, you know, even if the leader is destroyed, the other vampires could still keep going. That's like a thing. I would have missed something else to expand upon. Um, and your old life that you knew before you became a vampire is erased for this new identity as a vampire. You can't go out during the daytime, so that's another form of bondage. And you have to kill others in order to eat, basically. To suck blood in order to uh, live. So there's that. So you got to be a murderer. And that's another thing. And I'm assuming you're going to be on the run for a while, like if people recognize you and stuff. And there is a post-credit scene. I already mentioned my spoiler alert. With Stack, Mary, and an older Sammy. That's who Buddy Guy is playing in the post-credit scene. He's playing an older Sammy. They all say the last day they felt that was the last day they felt free when they opened the juke joint, and they were partying before the vampires came and ruined everything. And it was the last day they felt free and the best day of their lives. Oh, like I said, until the vampires came, and then Stack talks about how that was the last time he was in the sun, and the last time he saw smoke, and basically feeling free and not having to like dodge the sun, and not being with the people that you love. And that's another thing about vampirism is like, they get to live forever, but everyone around them dies. So they don't get to like live with their families or live with the people around them forever because everybody dies, but they stay. So that's another thing. Like with vampirism in like general, like lore. Um, and so vampirism is a bondage that limits and erases your old life. And also, people have pointed out how vampires have hive mind in the movie, like they all do the same thing, which, yeah, and that they're like a cult. So I saw a tweet comparing Remick to Jim Jones, the cult leader, which is very true because like everybody's doing the same thing, everybody's saying the same thing, everybody's thinking the same thing, everybody wants the same thing, but it's not a good want, obviously. And it basically, it feels like a symbolism for assimilation, which erases your identity. It puts you in bondage to what is like the mainstream thinking. So those are the three, technically six, themes that I thought were the main themes of the movie. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Let me know what your thoughts are. Have you seen the movie? Have you not seen the movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. And like, comment, subscribe. Of course I loved it. And yeah, it'd be nice to have like a nice discussion, a little back and forth, but like I said, don't go crazy. Nobody might not even comment anyway, but it is what it is. So yeah, I will see you all next week.